Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'll give it just a minute longer before we get started. See one more person joining. Okay, well, I'm sure folks will be trickling in, but we could go ahead and get started. Well, welcome everyone. Today we have our speaker, Laura Smith here, who is the Chief Program Officer for the Chef Ann Foundation. So one of Juliana and I's colleagues. And participants, as usual, if you could put your name and district in the chat, and Laura will be speaking to the menu planning process today and how to engage students. So Laura, I'll pass it over to you.
Amazing. Well, thanks for having me, everybody. I see a few names that I recognize, so I hope everybody's doing well. As Erico said, my name is Laura Smith, and I'm the Chief Program Officer with the Chef Ann Foundation. But before I joined CAF, I worked for Boulder Valley School District in Colorado, where I'm based. And during my time there, I was responsible for a lot of nutrition education, a lot of farm to school programming, and really just making sure that students were a key part of our school food operations success. So that's a little bit of what I'm going to be sharing with you all today based on my experience working there for about 5 years. So let me pull up my slides. Okay. So I'm going to share some student engagement ideas, and as I'm going through these, would love for you all to be thinking about what that could look like in your district, if that's even possible for your operation. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that fits in with a menu planning timeline, suggest some resources and funding. I know a bunch of you are in California, which is ripe with opportunities, but I'll share a few more national opportunities. And then with whatever time we have left, would invite you all to have a little bit of discussion about what really looks like a possibility for your district and you would be excited to engage with, or what wouldn't work with your district and why. And then what creative ideas you might have that are not amongst my list. So first of all, why? Why does it matter engaging students in your menu planning process and in your operation? Number one is to educate your school community. So you really want to take the opportunity to not only invite your students into the lunchroom every single day, but to invite them into your program and to help them understand what you all have been doing to really improve the food, to improve the operation, to make it exciting, to make it trendy, and then also where you all are headed with your school food operation. Increasing ADP, average daily participation, is of course number one for so many districts. That's really how we all function. And so engaging with students is a great marketing tool. It can help introduce students who maybe have never had school lunch to what your operation is doing. And encouraging students to get involved can look a number of different ways. So of course, ADP is number one, but maybe they just want to start small and start with the salad bar. Maybe there's one dish that they really can get excited about. And so every time that comes up on your menu cycle, they're going to look for that. So a bunch of different reasons why engaging students in the process is key. So I've kind of got these lumped into 3 different categories. I'm going to talk through some cafeteria event ideas, some outside of the cafeteria ideas, and then some more community-based ideas. Of course, any event that you're going to do does require a little bit of attention. It does sometimes require funding. Not always, but there are some different ways to make sure that you can do what you want to within the capacity of your current operation. So recipes and tasting events. We've probably all heard about them. We've probably participated in many of them as well. Tasting events are a really key component of testing new recipes. If you're following the USDA recipe standardization guide, is actually a key factor in making sure that you follow that process. But more to the point is it gives kiddos a voice. So when we conduct a tasting event, it's not necessarily giving them a whole entire entree serving, but it's just a little taster. It's just enough to get them excited. It's enough to see their friend holding this different cup. What's going on in the cafeteria today? How exciting is that? You can put up little signs on the wall for kids to vote. You can give them a sticker saying, I tried a new bite. All sorts of different ways to really get kids excited. I think we all know our elementary schoolers are as curious as they come, and so introducing them to new foods in the cafeteria is a great opportunity. But middle school and high school students are probably not going to turn down free food at any time as well, and it can be a really helpful way to engage them in some feedback. It's also a really good way to get students talking at home, have them talking to their adult at home about what went on during the day. They're not stopping their learning journey when they come into the cafeteria. And so, giving them something exciting to talk about can be a good way to share awareness with the adults in their lives as well. If you are unsure how to conduct a tasting event, we do have a how-to guide on the lunchbox. And I think Erica and Juliana will share these slides with everybody afterwards so you can get to that. Farmer visits are also one of my favorites. So I know in California and Colorado, Harvest of the Month is a big thing. California Thursdays, Colorado Proud, and inviting farmers in to represent the foods that are being shown on those days can be another great way to generate some excitement. So in the district I was at, we had these little trading cards. And so anytime a farmer came to visit, they got to hand them out just like a baseball card. Kiddos would ask for their signatures. And they would just walk around kind of showing them that the purple mashed potatoes they were eating were from purple potatoes. No, there's no dyes involved. And oh my gosh, where did potatoes come from? Are purple potatoes real? All of the fun stuff. It means that much more coming from somebody that's new. Somebody new and exciting in their cafeteria can get them a different version of excitement about some new foods. Chef demos, same idea. You probably have some really culinary skilled people within your operation, and definitely leverage them. Maybe it's again somebody who works in a central kitchen and can come in and join for a event in the cafeteria on any given day, but you can also leverage parents for this. And a lot of us live in communities with really great restaurants that are kind of a pillar of the community. Call that chef up and see if they would be willing to come down and make a simple recipe with you, and really demonstrate that the quality of food you're putting out is the same sort of food that they would be putting out in their restaurant. It can really help the kids connect to something that they already know. So in these photos, we have, again, parent volunteers, and then you can also get kiddos involved. I know that can get a little dicey, so you don't have to go that far, but giving them samples of something prepared freshly, they get to see it. They get to see it go from raw ingredient to your prepared salad, even if it's something as simple as tomatoes and cucumber salad. And they can smell it if it's something warm, something inviting, so that they can, again, experience all the senses with their food. Just a few folks from the local community where I was of celebrity supporters. So again, maybe it's a restaurant that everybody knows in town. This is Hosea Rosenberg from Top Chef, and he lives in our community, so he was able to come in, and the kiddos were just wowed. And then Justin Gold from Justin's Nut Butter. Your community is there to support you. They probably have kids in the school district. And so inviting them to be a part of your process and everything that you're creating can be a win-win-win for everybody. So those are just a few cafeteria-based ideas. Non-cafeteria event ideas definitely require a little bit more time, definitely a little bit more funding. But again, both Colorado and California have some really wonderful grant programs out there and an investment, especially in farm to school programming, that you can leverage for some of these opportunities. So junior chef competitions. This was one of my absolute favorites. So we would invite secondary students and elementary students once a year each to submit recipes that they had created. For elementary school students, we kept it pretty simple and we said, give us your best after school snack. And they got really creative. I can remember mango turtles one year, which was literally them cutting up a mango and making it look like a turtle. But how cute to see a 7-year-old creating that with his best friends. So then we would host a day where they would come and they would cook their creations, and we'd have a small panel of judges, sometimes older students, sometimes our staff, and then the winner would take home $25 for their school to invest in some additional education around food. Something very simple, but really meaningful to the kids. To see kids hold up a check that's the same size as they are, was really fun for everybody involved. The secondary junior chef competitions that we did were a little bit more involved. They would actually have to put together a recipe as a group of 4 middle school students, is really what we targeted. And that recipe we were required to be National School Lunch Program compliant. So they would have to have 3 of 5 components on the tray. They would have to have the right serving size for grains and meat alternates, for their fruits and vegetables. And we would get submissions of like up to
Lights.
30 schools at any given time. And then the top 6 recipes were selected, and we would have them join us for an afternoon cooking competition, and they would cook those recipes live and cook them in front of a panel of judges. Again, we would invite some local celebrity chefs or teachers, principals, and then they would cook it over the course of about an hour and present it to the panel of judges. For the middle school, since it was NSLP compliant, we not only gave them an award to take back to their school, but that menu item ended up on their school lunch menu the following year. So it was a really big point of pride, and it was a really great way to get new recipe ideas that were kind of trendy, and driven by the students. So again, time intensive, but a lot of fun. And a really cool way, again, to bring your community into the fold. We always got some great coverage from our local newspaper on these events. A harvest or a food festival. Again, there's some time intensiveness here, so I don't want to paint too rosy of a picture here, but if you can find the right partners, these festivals can go a long way. So we started out with just wanting to create a platform to really talk more about our farm to school program and educate our community about the fact that the farmers they were buying their produce from at the farmers market every single weekend or at the farm stand down the street were the exact same farmers who were providing the really high quality fruits and vegetables that were in our meals and on our salad bar. So the Harvest Festival was something they were interested in, our farmers were interested in, because they could get their names out there. And it was a big win for us because, again, we were trying to include our community in how important we thought the quality of our food was and everything that we were doing to invest in our local farms as a part of our school food program. Then it kind of evolved and it became a really great opportunity not only to highlight our farmers and the fact that we were serving the food that they grew, but also to give samples of that food. So by the time I left the program, we were running a food festival that we called A Taste of BVSD, and we made about a dozen of our recipes, some new ones and some tried and true ones, and created serving sizes. And it just kind of became one of these food tasting events where you could walk around and learn about the different food items, taste it. And it was a really great way to get parents a little bit more familiar with the menu. Kiddos would have their favorites, but even kiddos coming home and saying, I want to get school lunch because it's X, Y, or Z thing. A lot of adults were like, well, but it's school food. I don't know what that means. I don't have control over that. And so we would be able to talk to them about allergens and considerations and all of the different pieces of the puzzle that they just didn't know about our program. So it was really fun and really tasty. Highly recommend doing that if you have the capacity for it. A day at the farmers market. Again, we spent a lot of time trying to connect our local food system to the food that we were serving. So we were working with 9 farmer partners. And so we partnered with our local farmers market to put little signs at all of their farmer stands on farmers market day and just say, I serve school food. And it engaged folks in conversation, whether they had kiddos or not, to see that these farmers were not only at this Saturday market where they can serve the really, really pretty stuff, but that they were also serving the same amazing ingredients to students every single day. It was a really great opportunity for us to meet some new people who maybe had never experienced our school food program as well. And you can get all kinds of crazy with it if you want to. We had face painting and balloon animals and all sorts of fun stuff to go along with. And then a few more collaboration ideas. So, as I said earlier, kiddos don't stop learning when they leave their classroom. The cafeteria is just as much a classroom as anywhere else in their school day. And so, chances are you have champions within your district or your school. And so, collaborating with them can really help you to propel your message without having to do all of the legwork yourself. School gardens. So I think most folks here probably have school gardens in their district, but it's a really great way to, again, engage kiddos in where food comes from. It amazes me to this day the number of kids who don't realize that a carrot comes out of the ground or that it takes weeks and weeks and weeks to go from seed to something that they can actually eat, and that potatoes can be purple, and that it's okay if a potato comes out of the ground dirty because you're going to wash it and you're going to cook it and you're going to make it delicious. And school gardens can really be a great way to help them see something from start to finish. School gardens also offer a ton of learning opportunities for teachers, especially at the elementary level. I know in Colorado, and I'm fairly certain in California, that there are actually manuals that exist out there that connect school garden learning to various curriculum standards at all grade levels. So whether it's about science or art, reading, math, there's all sorts of different lessons that can be learned with school gardens. And then you can also make it fun and have the school garden produce end up in your cafeteria. We partnered with a nonprofit program in my district, and they would have first graders plant the lettuce, second graders would harvest the lettuce, third graders would measure the lettuce, and then we'd serve the lettuce in the salad bar. And it was so fun to see their little eyes light up of that's the seed I planted. I'm eating what came out of that. It's just a whole different level of learning for them. So it can be a little bit to do on your own, but if you got a great teacher partner or another nonprofit to support you, school garden learning can go a long way to teach kids about the foods that you're serving. And again, volunteers, don't forget about them, because as hard as it can be to coordinate volunteers, volunteers can take a lot of the load off of your shoulders. Anytime we had a parent write in with a complaint, we would say, why don't you come on down for a rainbow day? Or why don't you come down and have this tasting event with us? It can be a great way to educate the parents about every amazing thing that you're already doing and get them on your team. Chances are when they reach out with a complaint, it's just because they don't know. And so having them volunteer is not only a support to you in helping out the kiddos, but it can be a support to you in teaching them about what that means. Volunteering is one of the things that we try and do at the Chef Ann Foundation as well. So if you happen to know that you have a Chef Ann Foundation team member in your area, let us know and we will happily come volunteer at your school. And your wellness committee. So we all know that every single school food program is responsible for a wellness policy. And a wellness policy can be a great way to lift up all of these practices that you're putting into place for the quality of your food program. and the wellness committee can be a really great way to kind of cement those practices as policy, whether it's little p policy or big P policy. Your wellness committee can be the backbone so that you don't feel like you have to be pushing all of these changes and ideas forward yourself. You can get teachers and principals and all sorts of different community members, parents, and even students engaged to really help create the change together so that you're not shoving a boulder up the hill by yourself, but you have help and they're able to help you turn the tides on whatever misperception there is about your program and really be the champions again so that you don't have to be going at it alone. So that was a lot of ideas. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the when and the how. So the menu planning process, of course, does not happen overnight. You are probably already starting to think about your menus at least for the next semester, if not the next year. And you're probably also saying that sounds crazy and is crazy making because we just started the school year. But we all know menu brainstorm never sleeps. So when you are starting to think about your menu, please definitely use recipe testing and taste testing as a part of your process. There is no sense in trying to go through a whole recipe testing process, launching something, and then figuring out that the kids think it's too spicy or it's not spicy enough or that you don't have the right amount of spices in your new Indian dish or something like that. Definitely leverage your recipe testing process to get kiddos feedback and also to figure out what new ingredients you might need. Engage with those farmers before you launch and market your new menu. So in my district, the menu brainstorm really hit hard around January. We'd come back from the holidays and it was everybody's charge to come back with a few new recipe ideas, go to a few restaurants while you were on winter break and just see what's trendy out there. So we'd really focus on our menu brainstorm for the first couple of months of the year. Then we kind of lay out what we wanted our menu cycle to look like for the next school year. We ran on a 6-week menu cycle. I know a lot of districts will run on a 4-week menu cycle, but whatever it is, once you kind of get a lay of the land, you're going to know we're adding 3 new recipes, or we want to add 3 new recipes, and they're going to go in these different slots. That's when you're leaning into your recipe testing and taste testing. We did a heck of a lot of taste testing in April and May. And that was also really great because it was a good time for us to bring in, again, some fresh produce. I know you in California get amazing fresh produce year round, but in Colorado, we had to wait until spring back up for us to get some of those new produce items. So it was a really great way to get some taste testing, student engagement going on as well. Then you have your chance to procure new ingredients and, of course, launch your menu the following school year. One of the other things that I think is really important here is that it's not just about launching your new menu, but it's about marketing it. It's about generating a buzz, getting people excited and not fearful of something new, because we know a lot of kiddos especially have an automatic reaction of new being a little bit scary, but marketing it, getting them used to it, creating some snazzy posters or engaging an art class around doing that can go a long way to getting people really excited about your new menu items. And funding. So my advice around funding is to always start with your goals. The biggest mishap that I see school districts and especially school food programs doing with funding is that they get funding and then they have to figure out how to make that funding work into their program. It can be really, really easy to want to say yes anytime somebody wants to get you funding, but it's more important to get funding for the things that you want to be doing. So always start with your goals. And these are just a few questions that I would recommend folks ask themselves. So what do you need funding for? Do you have all of your needs filled and are you able to move on to wants? If you don't have all of your needs filled, start with that before you get to your wants. Oops, sorry about that. Does your school food team have the capacity? If you're vastly understaffed, now may not be the time to try something else. And do you have the folks to execute them? Again, is that something that's going to be a burden on your team? Can you leverage a school champion, a teacher, to make sure that you're able to actually implement the program that you're getting funding for? How are you going to monitor your progress? How are you going to know that it's successful? How are you going to know that you have all of the metrics that you need to report for? Who's going to be responsible for that? And then similarly, who's going to be responsible for managing a budget? We love free money, and unfortunately, free money comes with a little bit of lack of freedom. There are some structures and reporting and everything that you have to follow with it. And of course, we already mentioned the reporting requirements, but really making sure that you understand how you're going to maintain that relationship with your grant funder. We again have a section on the lunchbox about grant writing and management. So if that is a new approach for you, definitely take a look there. And we're always happy to take questions as well. So these are a few ideas for where to look for funding. So state agencies, I know there's a lot in both California and Colorado. USDA Food and Nutrition Services. In fact, they just launched the Patrick Leahy Farm to School grant. And school districts are encouraged to partner with organizations on that. So definitely take a look at that if you haven't already. At the Chef Ann Foundation, we have a few grant programs. So we have Salad Bars to Schools and the Bulk Milk Program. We'll also launch our Get Schools Cooking Program application again next year. So you can always check in our website to see what we have going on. Whole Kids is a great way to find funding for garden grants and bee grants. Action for Healthy Kids does a lot around wellness. They, I think, maybe used to or still do have a breakfast grant program. The School Nutrition Association, whether you're looking at the national or the state-based, often have grants. I know the National Association runs an equipment grant every year, which can be really helpful. And then you might look at some local opportunities as well. So, Local Infrastructure Hub is a great place for government entities of all types to look for infrastructure support. There's community foundations in a lot of our cities and towns. They can be a great resource. And then local libraries are a really great place to kind of get support in searching databases. So that was a lot of me talking. I would love to open it up for some discussion and hear from you all about your experiences with engaging students. If any of these ideas really get you excited and your juice is flowing, or what wouldn't work and what challenges you might have to overcome. So please feel free to jump off mute and chime right in.
Hi
And if you,
there.
oh, go ahead, Tiffany. And then for everyone
I'm
else,
Tiffany
if you want to
Timorous. And
oh, sorry, Tiffany. I was just gonna say for everyone else, if you want to share in the chat, if you're more comfortable with that as well, more than welcome to. But I'll pass it to you, Tiffany.
okay, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited because today as we launched a new year and we got back with our schedule, they put me on taste testings, and it is excellent for the students. I couldn't believe how excited they were. They knew that we've been doing it for a year, but or I mean even 2 years, but this was my first time, participating. And the kids know the protocol. There's like it's a testing day, and they even know to ask, "Are we going to get this for lunch?" Today was arroz con leche, and they're going to be getting it for breakfast. And we're a 50% Hispanic community, so they knew. A lot of the kids knew what it was, and they were very excited, and they were just thrilled that they were going to get it for breakfast. So it was my first day, so that's all I got to say. But it was great.
That's awesome, Tiffany. What are some of your tips and tricks for getting students to try something new? I know you said that they're familiar with arroz con leche, but have to imagine you have some kiddos who've never tried it before. Do you have some ideas for folks around that?
Yeah, you just need to be excited. You need to be excited, and they will be excited. Say, "This is great. Have you ever tried this? And here's a sticker, and let us know what you think." And you know, I think you bring that energy into it, and they like it. they're more willing to try it. They don't pass by if they see you talking to other students. Yeah,
That's awesome. I love that. That makes me want some arroz con leche.
I know, it was so good.
Anybody else willing to share? Thank you, Tiffany.
Mhm.
Yep, definitely feel free to share in the chat as well. All right. Well, I don't need to beg everybody to chime in. I know it's the end of a long day and still a busy back to school season. Did I hear somebody come off mute?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to get it, but for some reason my computer froze. Um, so this past week we served mushroom soup, and the kids were not really excited because they were like, "No, it doesn't look appetizing." But we were like, "Okay, how about you try it, and then you give us a point of view, you know." And a lot of them were like really excited. They were like, "It doesn't look appetizing, but it's has really good flavor. Can we bring this back like in the winter time when it's cozy, that we need something warm?" So yeah, they liked it.
That's awesome to hear, Claudia. I don't know many districts who have really leaned into mushrooms for exactly as you described. Kiddos are a little bit nervous about it, but a good mushroom soup, there's nothing like it.
Yes.
That's awesome. What were some of the things that you did to even encourage kiddos to try that first bite, if they were nervous just looking at it? Do you have any thoughts about that?
So we did explain, like, yeah, it doesn't look really appetizing, but you know, it doesn't hurt if you try it and then you tell us your point of view. Sometimes you got to try the items, before saying I don't like it. And we were like, okay, we'll give you a sticker, and you know, you can tell one of your friends. And if one of your friends comes, then next time, like, you can come up, like, maybe at the beginning of the line. So yeah, that got them excited because they wanted to be in front of the line.
I love that. Little incentive in there. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
Anybody else?
Then if anyone has any questions for Laura as well, feel free to come off mute or drop in the chat. If not, well, I can get started. I actually have a question for you, Laura.
Go for it.
Going back to, I think, oh, it was the farmers market, because I know this is a topic that has been of interest in the past for virtual learning sessions. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about, number one, if you know, if you might not know this, but if BVSD still works with farmers markets, and then just the process of how you got started with that, and if you have any suggestions on that, because I know that has been a kind of a popular idea in the past.
Yeah, thanks, Erico. I believe they still do work together, but don't quote me on that. It's been a few years since I was there, but I think number one in finding a partner for any of these ideas, whether it's a volunteer or trying to collaborate with your farmer's market or even engaging a new farmer, is to go and say hi. When I first started my job at BVSD, I went to the farmer's market on Saturday like I would as any customer interested in buying some delicious fruits and veggies. And I just introduced myself and I said, "Hi, this is what I do." Like, does that resonate with you? Do you have kiddos in the school district? Have you ever heard about our program? And just building from there. So it doesn't have to be this big, scary ask to begin with. You're just starting a relationship with somebody who cares about some of the same things that you do. And so ultimately, what happened is that one of our team members, one of our district managers at the time, struck up a relationship with the executive director of the farmers market. And we kind of kept finding ourselves in some of the same circles. There would be a healthy food coalition in the community. There was healthy food discussion about how do we support our food banks in the community with recipes that they're going to be familiar with from schools and these other institutions in the area. And so we just kind of kept bumping into each other. And finally, it was like, okay, we see the through line here. We're working with these farmers, you're working with these farmers. How about we make some fun out of it? How about we celebrate everything that this community has really invested in, and make it a fun day for everybody to connect the dots that we just connected. So don't let it feel like this big mountainous thing that you have to start with. Just start with a relationship with somebody new who cares about the same things you do.
Thank you, Laura. And then I actually have one more question. And then if there's any other questions, we could get to those as well. But the other question I had was just going back to the volunteering and getting people volunteering. I know I'll actually be volunteering at BVSD tomorrow. I'm so excited about that. But how would you suggest our apprentices kind of encourage people to volunteer, or have you seen any successful methods either through BVSD or other school districts and how they are getting volunteers into schools?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I think one of the easy ways to invite volunteers in semi-unknowingly is to encourage the complaints to become again a relationship. So I'm sure we've all gotten an email somewhere along the way of my kiddo didn't like what was served today. Okay, well, let's talk about it. Why don't you come in and have lunch with us? Why don't you come in and see what our salad bar is all about and see what our new menu items look like? And oh, by the way, we'd really love some help with encouraging kids to try the salad bar. Do you want to come support us on this rainbow day? Or, hey, we're trying out this new menu item. Maybe your kiddo's going to like that better. Do you want to come and help us serve that? So I think there's a lot of ways to do that. We also reached out to our district PTO, and our district PTO had kind of their connections to all the school-based PTOs, but we told our district PTO, this is what we're doing with our wellness policy and our wellness committee, and here's our new menu, and kind of answered questions. And by golly, by the end of that meeting, we had 12 new champions across the district. So then they got to go back to their schools and they got to stand up and say, like, this food is quality, this is great. And it was kind of the word of mouth effect where, like, oh, cool, I want to see that. How do I engage with that? Well, volunteering's a great way for that. So definitely, I think just continuing to invite the conversation in, whether it starts positive or not, and really give them the access to see that what you're doing is absolutely incredible and the hard work that your team puts in every single day. For a while, we tried doing some like recruiting on social media for volunteers and volunteer signups online. And you can do that, and sometimes you'll get a few, but it's really relationship based. So I definitely encourage you to lean into that side of volunteering more than anything. Yeah, Tiffany.
Can I add something to that? I have found the best opportunity to get parents engaged is back to school nights. Make sure you have enough staff on hand that everyone has someone, available to talk. And we've made lots of relationships on back to school night because that's when the parents get to see, what we're cooking and what we're doing. And that's proven well. We've gotten some people engaged that way from back to school night.
It's a great idea, Tiffany. Juliana, I'm seeing your question in the chat. So what do you think is the biggest challenge schools face when trying to implement new cafeteria programs, and how can they overcome it? Is it budget, or do you think there's a different struggle schools might be facing? I think the biggest struggle is figuring out where to start. I just rattled off in the matter of 20 minutes, like a dozen ideas. That's a little bit overwhelming. I think we can all agree to that. And you don't have to do it all. Start with one thing. If you have a salad bar in your cafeteria, start with a rainbow day. It doesn't have to change anything about your operation that day, except that you're going to want to have a little bit more produce on hand. but invite kiddos who aren't getting school lunch to try a few bites of salad. That can be a really great entry point. Or if you're already following the USDA recipe standardization guide, you have to get kiddo feedback. Turn that into an event rather than just handing out a few samples at the end of the lunch line. Get an hour from somebody on your team for one day and see if they can help you just walk around the cafeteria and get kiddos excited. I think there's been a couple of references to just you have to be the energy builder. You have to be the one who brings the joy to the event. So I think it's overcoming that first step of it feeling like, oh my gosh, we have to do all of this. Start small. Then I think once you get comfortable with how you can run that, then I think is when budget becomes the issue because sky's the limit in terms of ideas, but you have to have the money to be able to execute it or the money to be able to pay for the extra staff capacity.
Thank you, Laura. Any other questions or comments for Laura?
I have one more question if no one has any.
Go for it, Juliana.
Um, I'm curious, like with all of these different event ideas, do you have a good suggestion of how people can track if the events are improving the school food program participation or like how people can have like feedback with how the event went?
Yeah, I think real-time feedback is great. Even if you're just walking around the cafeteria saying, "What'd you think of that? Did you like it? I thought it was so good. What was your reaction?" You can take a pretty easy informal survey that way. When we had the time, we would also put little posters up, and folks could put a little sticker or something that said, "Tried it, liked it, loved it." We always really tried to keep the kiddos from, quote, yucking each other's yum. So that's why we would frame it as tried it as opposed to didn't like it. But right from those three posters, you can get a clear idea of how many kids loved it versus only trying it. So that's a really easy way. But I think most impactfully for all of us is when you put a sample out there and then you have it on the menu. Look at that ADP. Maybe it's your first time serving that recipe, and so you're getting your baseline data, but maybe you have tweaked the recipe a little bit from the last time you served it, and you can compare your ADP, the number of portions you served of that individual menu item, from the first time to the next time. If you're serving on a menu cycle, it's going to come up once for you every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and compare those numbers. Make sure you're using the data that you're already collecting. Because it can go a long way. One thing I also should mention with some of the tasting is if you're not in recipe testing season, as in you're just trying to get kiddos excited about a menu item that they're maybe not too jazzed on, try serving it the day before it's on a menu. Because if they get really excited about that taste, they're going to go home and be like, hey, adult, I want lunch tomorrow. And then you'll probably see, we always saw a spike in our participation on that menu item when the tasting was the previous day.
Great idea. Okay. Any final questions for Laura?
Well, I look forward to hearing about all the fun events that you guys do. Please share them with us. We always love stories and photos and hearing what you all are up to. So I wish you all the best with it. And thank
Yes.
you for your time.
Yeah, well, thank you, Laura. We'll let you go. But thanks for joining us today, and we appreciate all the information you had. So,
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
thank you. Okay, well, let me get to my housekeeping. So I don't think we have much housekeeping. The only reminder I have for you all is our next virtual learning session will be October 1st. And reminder to complete your reflection assignment. Again, I think I mentioned this last call, but for any of you who might have missed it, just a reminder that for this semester. I will be your point of contact, so feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Juliana is on these calls, but she's shifting to being the point of contact for our new cohort that just began. Juliana, anything else to add?
I don't have anything to add. Just wanted to say hi. It's good to see all of you. And yeah, thanks for being here. I hope that was helpful. And I'm not the point of contact, but if y'all do plan any cool events, I would love to hear about them. So
Yeah, definitely still reach out to Juliana. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll let you all go. And again, we'll see you in a few weeks. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye, everyone.